Hey.
And we are live. Hello, hello, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk with Nina, which is me. And today we have Andrea Enright with us, and I'm super, super excited. And I have so many questions for her. It's going to be an amazing talk. So, Andrea, please introduce yourself so we know who you are, what you do, and why you're here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Nina. I'm Andrea Enright. I run The Boot Factor. The Boot Factor is the degree of authenticity to which you are connecting with your clients and turning them into real prospects. So I'm not sure how to tell you this, but you're kind of a big deal, right? So I know it and you know it, but we need to make sure that the world knows it. And you can do that with a compelling online presence. So I work exclusively with coaches and consultants, often those who have left corporate for an entrepreneurial life. And I try to help them get more visibility, more magic, more clients, more conversions, and more self-love, right? So we do this with a LinkedIn profile. We do this with a marketing one sheet. And we do this with my boot kicking brand journey, which basically builds a true personal living, breathing brand. I've been an entrepreneur for about 20 years. I have entrepreneurial roots. I was probably never really set for the employee life. Haven't been doing that in a long time. I live in Denver, Colorado, and have visited probably over 36, 40 countries. So definitely bring a global aspect and have done a lot of living abroad as well. But I do love the entrepreneur life, and my why in life is to help people be a little more brave. So I'm glad to be here. And really another aspect I like to talk about is just like really, because my personal life is woven in with my professional life, that often comes out, right? So I like to say that I'm a good dancer, a mediocre runner, a bad vegetable eater, and a dedicated mama. So there you go.
How old are your kids?
I just have one 11-year-old daughter.
Okay, awesome. That's a great age. That's it's going to get interesting.
Yes,
more interesting as we go.
Already getting interesting for sure.
Okay, good, excellent. Thank you for that introduction. That was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. So, oh my God, I have so many questions for you. I don't even know where to start. But actually, just off the bat, tell us something that is something that makes your toes curl. Like, I mean, other than, nails screeching on the chalkboard, which I can barely say because it just makes my toes curl right there. But just something that sort of makes you want to take action.
Right. So at a personal level or a professional level, are you?
Whichever.
Anything. So
whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. So when I hear music, I typically want to dance, and I want to get up and move. That is definitely true. When I see people singing, I want to sing too, even though I don't really have a good voice. So, it's really about expression for me. And I find expression very, enlivening. And I find that when we get vulnerable and when we really express our true selves, like, people actually respond. And so that's what it's all about. It's stories too. I would say, anything I can find with a writer's eye that makes me think, well, what is the story behind that? Right. Then I kind of get excited.
So having said that, I think that's a great segue into my first set of questions, which is all about LinkedIn. So as you know, I live on LinkedIn. I get all my leads from LinkedIn if they're not referrals. And a lot of the people that I work with are the same. I mean, I work with coaches, consultants too. I focus on business coaches, but and LinkedIn is where it's at. So vulnerable, storytelling, open. Where do you? I think maybe examples are the best way of going about this question. Examples of where people got too vulnerable or too open, or, I mean, I think we all know what the examples are of people are being just too stuck up and too corporate and too, not sharing, right? I think that we don't even need to talk about. But where do you draw a line? Do you see a line? What would you say to someone who's like, okay, how open do I need to be? How vulnerable do I need to be?
Sure. Yeah, let's dive into that. So I think so some people really get nervous, right, about showing up online, right? I talk to a lot of executives, say 45 to 65, who are just like, I can't do this. I've been riding HP's coattails for 10 years. I can't just suddenly be myself online. Yeah. And the fact is, audiences do not fall in love with the company. They fall in love with the human. Exactly. Right. And so the line I find is that there's still private and public, right? That still is true. Like what you share in your household, with your partner, you definitely may not share on your LinkedIn profile. Right. But what I want to know for you is what makes you human, right? Maybe you collect pinball machines, or maybe you suck at recycling, or maybe you drink Diet Coke and you keep it hidden in the basement. Like whatever that is, like, I want to know, because that makes me relatable to you. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be much, because LinkedIn is thought of as such an executive, very stiff tool still, and 98% of the profiles still follow that template. Yeah. Your little humanness is going to come out, and it's going to show up, and people are going to love it. So that's definitely, it is part of my work when I work with people, is to mine them for their magic and bring that to the top and help them get comfortable with that expression.
So what's your magic?
So my magic is part of what I already shared, right? That guess what? Like life is stressful, and here's how I de-stress, right? I mean, I like to get bold, right? I like to wear feather earrings. I often wear cowgirl hats the entire time when I'm on client calls in the summer. I sometimes just throw into my closings, right? Like, here's to skeletons and snowstorms, right? I'm just being relevant with whatever's going on in the world. Yeah. I often confess, like, guess what? This week didn't go well, right? When I got on with you this morning, I'm just like, oh my God, it's been crazy. So it's really about just creating that human, intimate conversation right away. And I like to kind of say, it's like the peace fingers to the eyes, like, hi, can we just like connect at this human level? And people are surprised by that, right? They're just not expecting it, right? And I often, part of what my magic is when working with clients is that we talk in a very casual way, right? And I help them express themselves in a casual way. And they never thought of doing it. They're just like, I'm sure I can say that. Yep. So that's what it is.
Yeah. That's, I really like that, because if we don't start sharing something out of our own lives, then, as you said, it's just like Teflon, right? There's nothing to relate to. There's nothing to hold on to. And I think some people might be afraid of offending, or, I'm all about dogs, and then, oh my God, but this client might be a cat lover. It's like, but it doesn't matter, right?
No. And when you commit to something, people are inspired because they're like, oh, she's confidently loving feathers. I like wear feather earrings a lot. Like, she's confident just doing it. And they're like, oh yeah, I really like to wear red boots, so I'm just going to wear them. Right. Yeah. So it's empowering. And I do swear sometimes, definitely in some of my content and online. Yeah. I feel a lot of comfort in doing that. And I find that most of my clients are okay with that. Now, certainly that might not be your thing, and that might not be your audience, but you have to figure that out and get comfortable.
Well, and I also think, and this is, with me coming from a video background, so I basically take that to the next level, because right now I'm physically need to show up, right? And and now, even if I'm trying to be super corporate and correct, just my body language, the way I am, my inflection, I mean, that all of that just speaks to my personality. So I find the beauty of you being like you are, be it in showing up on a Zoom call, in marketing videos, or just with your posts, video or not. If you are the way you are, you then attract I find that a lot of us are attracting our mirror images, right? Absolutely. I mean, I cannot tell you how many coaches I talk to where I say, who's your target audience? They basically say me. I mean, they say it in a much longer roundabout way, but in the end, when you filter it all away, it's like me. And it's so true, right? Because and with video even more so, because it's like a self-selection tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people like you, then they'll contact you or be in your orbit. If they can't stand you, then bye-bye and good riddance, right? I don't want to work with people who can't stand me.
Yeah. And you just hit on it, because really what you're doing
Yeah.
in your LinkedIn profile, what you should be doing, is just establishing a human connection and a likability. Like don't get into the how, don't get into something esoteric. You want people to like you, and then they're going to pay attention. Right. But most people just kind of go into the, hi, here's my 6-paragraph bio that is a play-by-play and timeline of my entire life. Right? And what we really want to do is just have a cool conversation with someone, and not talk about ourselves too much.
Yeah. I once had somebody tell me, and I thought it was a really good guideline for beginners, is to choose 5 things to talk about. On your, I love that cup. Oh my God, that's so cool.
Ooh, thanks.
And it matches I've been looking for a blue one that matches this wall, and I haven't found the right one yet, but
thanks.
My birthday's on May 19th, just saying. Anyway.
I'm going to find you a blue cup.
Find me a blue cup. Anyway, with the New York City, I can always put the decal on it myself.
Good idea.
I just had an idea. Anyway, I thought that was really kind of smart. So you go like, okay, so I'm going to talk about being a cyclist, having a dog, being from Switzerland. And then, you choose 2 or 3 personal and 2 or 3 business related ones. And then those become your topics and then I think after a while that comes with everything, mastery. And then,
Yeah. And can I comment on that? So I do think it is about like choosing a few things, right, and sticking to them and going with them. What I would be careful about doing is not doing what I call just like a bio sandwich, where you start out with your like, hi, I'm Andrea and I'm all soft. And here's all my here's my promo and come to my webinar. And oh, by the way, I really like calico cats. So this is just like personal, promo, business, personal, which is this bio sandwich. And so what we want to do instead is just help me understand how your passion about life is related to your work, right?
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
I'm someone who like weaves them together, and I want to work with someone who, their reason for getting up in the morning is a mix of their dogs and, their retail business. And so, you just have to weave them together.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that is actually the missing link on that piece of advice. So, and I love the term bio sandwich. Something not to do. So,
right. Don't eat the bio sandwich.
Don't eat the bio sandwich. It sounds awful on so many different levels.
Well, and bios in general are sort of notoriously, I can talk about this for a long time. They're just notoriously bad, right? I'm going to tell you right now, please do not say, really enjoying the Colorado lifestyle and spending time with my family, right? That is right. It's just like, I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. Like, don't do that. Like, this is what everybody says. Tell me what's uniquely you, and don't be afraid to be a little weird, right? So anyway,
I love weird. Yeah, I'm totally into weird. Yeah, no, that's very, very true. And then I always cringe when people want to see my bio. I'm like, can you just go on my LinkedIn profile and and see? Because to me, a bio is a packaged stale affair, whereas my LinkedIn profile, in my case at least, is a living, breathing thing because I post daily and I'm constantly changing it. Right. So LinkedIn. What are sort of the what are the top offending things where your toes curl up when you go on a LinkedIn profile and you go like, ugh?
Yeah. So, I've mentioned them a little. One is that it's just like a 6-paragraph bio. That's just literally a play-by-play or timeline of your life where you're going on about your awards and your certifications and something that happened 15 years ago. And, you're trying to establish credibility.
Yeah.
I get that. And I applaud you for that. And that is part of the point. Mm-hmm. But in general, that just doesn't work, right? People kind of glaze over a third of the way through and they stop reading. Mm-hmm. The other thing I see is it's a constant sell, right? It's like, oh, let me tell you about me. Oh, I'm also awesome. Here are my products and features, but enough about me. What do you think of me? So this is what websites used to do. And websites finally made that turn, say a decade ago, where they went from this just complete me fest to this, how can I anticipate your struggles and provide you with an experiential solution?
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing I see is just a lack of target audience, right? People, when we market to everyone, we market to no one. And your LinkedIn profile isn't really just about you. It's about saying, hi, I'm looking, I work with female healthcare leaders over 50 making at least 200K living in the Chicago area. Now there is a target audience I can work with, right? I know someone like that. I'm going to send her to you.
Yeah.
So these sort of three things are kind of just, they're the biggest mistakes I think I see. And once we start getting away from those, then we can start coming into ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and from the visual point of view, again, for me, visual is always sort of, because that's the first thing that people see. I mean, I would say you're lucky if someone will go into your about or go, and I think people sort of maybe check out your last 2 or 3 jobs that you held just because it's easily accessible. But even before you get to any of this, I mean, if I see a profile where there's the background is still the standard one from LinkedIn, or even worse, there is no photo, or there's a photo. Oh my God. I mean, don't get me started, but a photo of your dog, a photo of you with your wife, a photo of, the cutoff person, at a party, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And I'm seeing fewer and fewer of those, but they're still out there. So from a visual perspective, one thing is with your headshot, we want our face to take up 60% of the frame. We want teeth, smile. We want to be looking at the camera. Some people don't do that and it works, but I want to look at your eyes, right? I want to look into see if I can see into your soul a bit. Mm-hmm. So that's important. It should be this sweet spot between professional and casual. Mm-hmm. The banner, there's a lot of different opinions about the banner. I really find that is our only chance. It is our only visual chance to create an emotional response and touch someone at their heart, right? So do your best. Don't throw it with a bunch of words, right? Maybe you have a logo, maybe you have a little message, but overall, I want it to be something that makes me think, that draws me in, right? A photograph, something maybe outside, a metaphor for what you do, something that's really designed well. And it is really important. And most people, if they're not doing the standard LinkedIn issue, there tends to be something like a sunset or a mountainscape, which is, not bad, but way too common, right? Yeah. So try and stand out in that way. And I think that gets a little bit into, I want to just talk about 2 words or 4 words I use. We're really going here from a sell to a serve.
Yeah.
And from a resume to a resource. And so instead of selling with your logo and your tagline and your latest offer, we want to serve the audience with something that soothes them, right? That makes them think, oh, I think I'm going to look a little further on this profile. Mm-hmm. We really want to serve them in that way. And then of course, say resume to a resource, that's the resume.
I love that. Sell to serve, resume to resource. That's another nugget to keep.
Right.
So that's your LinkedIn profile. Now, on a different note, how do you keep up with what is in, or what one ought to be doing, or what is the latest LinkedIn best practices? How do you keep yourself? I mean, okay, I have some ideas, but
and I think this is something, to be honest, is something I struggle with, right? That I'm constantly having to keep up with, is really just devoting an hour or 2 to LinkedIn a week, right? And I can't say that I'm a social media lover. I'm not a huge Facebook person. I'm not on Twitter and I'm not on Instagram. And I think for some people it's like, what do you mean? You have to be on all 4 platforms. My people are on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out. I don't spend a lot. I'm not on every day, every hour, or even every hour of one day a week. So I'm wandering around there, and I sometimes just do this sort of what I call LinkedIn lost. I just kind of let myself get lost, and I click on this link, and then that leads me to this link, and then that, and I see what happens there, right? Because that's what I know my clients might be doing, right? And so what am I experiencing? Who am I seeing? What's attracting me? What's turning me off, right? Yep. And then that helps me participate. I'm in a pod, a weekly pod that I find very energizing and really, really, it's lead generating, and it's a wonderful way to just put value out there and start conversations. And it's not promotion based, right? And that, I know that that LinkedIn Lost exercise typically informs my post every week.
Okay. So, I'm in a daily pod actually. So, I mean, daily, it used to be Monday through Friday. It's not Tuesday through Thursday. And that has, also generated me a lot of leads, and also the discipline and the accountability around the discipline and the support from a group. So, highly recommend doing that. And I'll ask you offline who you're with. I'm curious.
Right.
Anyway,
so we can talk about posts, right? If that's like how to put together a good post. But.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a whole other ballgame. So one of the things, so you and I, we met through the Dames, right? Which is this absolutely phenomenal female-only networking opportunity. And what I really loved when we talked the first time is that you had a very specific offer where I could immediately sink my teeth into and say like, ha, I want that, So one of them was, a combination. Your offer was a combination of getting your LinkedIn profile whipped into shape. It was your company or business one page. How do you call it? You have a specific name for it. The one page. Yeah, the one sheet, and then you had a pitch. And I just thought like, wow, if I were to start a business or, if there were three things that I would focus on as a business owner who was, sort of either rebranding or lost or needed redirection or was starting out, those were the three things I think everybody should focus on. So, and then you sent me some samples of your one sheet, and I just thought they were the coolest, sexiest thing ever. Because it really, what it does, it takes your entire company and your entire website and everything and just puts it into one letter sized piece of paper. And the layout was beautiful. How did you come up with this? How do people that you work with, how do they actually use it?
Yeah, great questions. So a few things. So how I came up with it was, I've been in business for so long and I didn't need my resume for a long time because, I was constantly getting referrals and everything just led to one another. No one was asking for my resume. But at some point I kind of got this trade with someone who's like, oh, do you need a resume? I was like, oh, not really, but okay, I'll just get this one sheet put together. And then I just found that it to be so helpful. Yep. And I called it at the time a rebel resume. It was like, it's not a timeline. It's just a short summary, a one pager. And I found that every time I would meet someone, my follow-up, I would just throw it in, right? I would just put it at the end or at the end of the email. And then I also used it as a perfect upcycling messenger for my one page or a landing page I created, right? Mm-hmm. So it was just this base. And so what it's really constructed of is a one page professionally designed piece, and my Core Act Design is my partner. They're amazing. And you've got your picture, you've got your bio, you have your pitch, you have your outcomes, you have your testimonials, and you have your contact info. Mm-hmm. And this is like what I call it is a 9-second scan of who you are and why I can't live without you, right? So, because we have to be channel accommodating, right? Some people don't like LinkedIn. Some people are not good at searching on LinkedIn. Maybe your last name is really hard to spell, right? And a website, right? Speaking of which, right? And a website, to be honest, is, it's getting a little vintage these days. You need one and everything, but I gotta go and then I got to go in the navigation and where's your about and blah, blah, blah. And so this is just one piece. It's a PDF. It's a great piece to pass on to someone and say, hey, I'm thinking of hiring this person. What do you think? Should we bring them onto our company? I work with a lot of consultants who are, say, 3 to 5 years in. They're done with DIY. They need that one piece just to accommodate some of their colleagues who are potentially less social media savvy. So let's talk now about how we use that. And I did say that, but to get deeper, one way is just as a follow-up. You meet someone in a Zoom room, you meet them at an event, you're speaking, you follow up, you put it at the end of the email. Hey, here's my one sheet.
Yeah.
Another way to use it is like putting it, is to upcycle that messaging onto your landing page, right? It's perfect, not too much, not too little. you put it on your landing page, and then you've got kind of this mini website for your webinar or whatever you need.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say the third one is really just when you're in part of the sales cycle, you know, when you're talking to someone, they just need a little more information. Sometimes they want to look at something, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I found it to be really helpful. And I feel like it's helped me turn clients and think, oh, you know, this is who she is. It's a chance for me to get personal too. It's much less desperate than a resume. I also have a lot of executives, kind of corporate people who are looking to move maybe up the ladder or across the ladder. And they don't want to get into their resume yet, but they want to say, hey, I'd like to join a board. I'd like to be on a panel. Yep. Here's my speaker sheet, one sheet. Here's who I am. So that's where it's very handy too.
Yeah, I actually stole the idea from you I have services that I offer after, you know, people are done with one of my signature entry gateway services. And I was like, oh my God, I have to create a whole web page for that, blah, blah, blah. And what I just did, I just created a one pager and, you know, in a PDF, and not as beautifully designed as yours, but it just so handy. And I did the same thing. I uploaded it to my website, so it becomes a link. And then I can upload a fresh one when I make changes to the same link, which is awesome. So never breaks the link, never is outdated. So
yeah,
because with the PDF, you lose control over who has which version.
It's true. And a lot of people will say, I mean, I do get feedback thinking, oh no, nobody's going to look at that. Like, not for my audience. And I like to tell my clients, you know your audience best, but at the same time, it just doesn't hurt to have another channel, right? Even if most people want a link, you can also open this, and it's also one click. So
yeah, and it looks, I mean, really, when I say they're sexy, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, you sent me about 4 or 5 different samples, and I immediately had like the FOMO thing. I'm like, I want one of those. I need one of those.
I love it. You had FOMO. Yay.
And then the last part of it is the pitch. And I mean, obviously, the beauty of what it is all 3 of them are so tightly connected, right? You have the pitch, you have the one page, you have the one page, you have the pitch. It all translates into your LinkedIn page. So, tell me about the pitch part.
Yeah. So, the pitch is really, I just find that over and over with clients across the years, people just have so much trouble describing what they do, right? Even if they're really good at it, they just can't quite capture that magic in 3 sentences. So, I've just found that just a consulting hour with them, I take their stuff and we go through and we go through 4 different styles of how to talk about yourself. Now that can work if you're on a plane, on a stage, at a networking event, wherever. But the point is that it's not about the how, and it's not about getting deep. It's about translating what you do into something different, right? So instead of saying you're a corporate coach, you say, when someone asks what you do, I might say, I make executives uncomfortable, right? Because that's what coaches do, right? That's really what they do, right? Or I take people from, corporate bigwig to leader badass, right? Something that really is, it can be transformative. I use 4 different approaches: transformation, shock statement. And that's often interesting, right? If you can just shock people a little bit into thinking, wait, what do you do? It's really a real estate agent is a peace of mind giver, right? Oh, they're holding your hand through the biggest purchase you've ever made.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. And so by translating that, you sound different and you really get to the emotion. And so anyway, elevator pitch is very important. But I think you mentioned, which I think was important, the glue that how all these are together. And that's really, at the end of the day, when you get this thing, and when you finish my boot kicking brand journey, you have this brand messaging base that you can use for emails, curriculum, bios, website content. And I wouldn't go do marketing tactics until you have that, because if you're sending people to your LinkedIn profile to see who you are, you have to make sure that they're telling themselves the right story about you, right? And if it's not right, don't go do that marketing stuff until you really know how to talk about yourself and you look cohesive across the channels.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And I mean, and that is something that I'm battling with, even with established clients. So I tend to work 95% with people who already are doing video and want to up their video game and
Yes.
get that consistency so they actually can attract the clients that they want to attract. And even people who have established companies, have been in business for quite a few years, when I ask them sort of the basic marketing questions going in to get a get a sense of, you know, who they're talking to and all of that. So often there's no answers, waffling answers. Oh, you know, I still get the, you know, who's your target audience? Anybody, you know, everybody.
Entrepreneurs.
Or
Most people say entrepreneurs, or yeah, right. And I get it. So there is this fear of pigeonholing yourself.
Yes, yes.
Man, it is a game changer when you get specific.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, it really is. I'm actually going through the process right now, and I would absolutely sign on the dotted line that making coaches uncomfortable is, I mean, I'm kicking and screaming the whole way. I'm like,
Yeah.
What do you mean I need to find a niche? I mean, I hired a coach to do so, and now I'm like, what do you mean?
I know. It's that's just it. We know it's hard, right? It's a hard journey. And I will say, don't mention that hard journey in your pitch.
Yeah,
right?
no.
Nobody wants to think about that.
That's a surprise. That's a surprise. Yeah.
Or your approach. And I wanted to talk a little bit, if you know, about LinkedIn being a lead generator too.
Yeah.
I know you use it as that.
Yes.
That is a new offering that I have. It's called LinkedIn Lead Zen strategy. And I'm telling you, I walked that walk.
Yeah.
And it took a while, but it really does work if you treat LinkedIn as an authentic relationship marketing tool instead of just a promo, you know, a kind of a promo platform.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm living it too, as you are. So I know. Yeah. Well, then you and I should talk about those clients and how they use video.
Yeah, this is true. and speaking of kicking and screaming, like, I mean, I just resisted video for so long because it's stressful, right? You're just like, my hair, the lighting. And my collaborative partner and I just finally did like a 6-hour session where we sat down and hammered out, you know, 4 videos. And it was hard, but it was empowering. And now we're over that hump. And
right. You know, and once you get going, I mean, first of all, the way you show up right now. I love your framing. I love the intentionality of your background, which I've loved from day one on being on Zoom calls with you. So, I would hope that you will continue doing videos because you certainly show up really, really well on video. And, you know, even this morning when we got started, you didn't have that much light yet because you are in Denver and it's much earlier there. It's still way too early for me here in New York, but yeah, that's another story. But I mean, we fixed it with what? We turned off the overhead light and you got yourself a desk lamp and boom, you're perfectly lit. So it really doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Yeah, it's true. It's the, you know, it's the perfectionist thing. You have to just overcome it. And the sooner you do that, the more real you look anyway, you know.
By the way, there in our Dames network, there's a woman who has an anti-perfectionism course, which I can only recommend. I took her beta and the funny thing is I took it so I could help my clients. And helping my clients fell off the bandwagon like lesson 1, and I was like, "Ooh, I got some perfectionism issues of myself. I think I need to address those first." So
that's a great endorsement. Like,
it comes. I always say that the perfectionism in my case comes with the Swiss passport. But anyway,
that's probably true. Yeah, I love it. I love it that you're like always like half the time when I talk to you, you're in a different time zone, or you're you know, a very different time zone, which is
very different time zones. Yes, I do tend to travel quite a bit. Yeah. I think, I mean, is there anything I should have asked you I didn't ask you? Anybody else have questions?
Yeah. How can I help? How can I raise up your brand, raise up your voice? I mean, I think that's probably the main thing is it's really getting that bravery around deciding who it is you are, what you want to say, and saying it. and that is really what the journey is. I mean, I guess I want to reassure coaches and consultants, and typically who I work with is then people that are 3 to 5 years in that are done with the DIY. They know they need a tribe, right? They know they need to build this tribe of experts around them. And they just need someone to help sharpen that message. But getting over that hump, kind of like the video, it's tough because they're a little afraid. The great thing about LinkedIn is that you can change it every day. Right? If you want to change it put it up today and change it tomorrow, you totally can. I like to tell my clients that the good and bad news is that nobody is out there waiting for you to launch your website or change your profile.
Yeah, so true. And I think people sometimes, in a way, I find it very. There's a good German word for it that I right now don't know how to translate, but it's very sweet in a way how people actually think that their launch of the new website or their I've actually had that problem with people posting, especially people also who sort of are old school, where they're like, I'd rather post once a week or once every 2 weeks, but then a really nice, long, thoughtful post. I'm like,
yeah.
That's for blogging. That's fine for blogging, but not for posting, because no one's sitting there waiting for you to post that perfect post once a month or twice a month or whatever.
No, it's true. And I do think, I'll talk a little bit about storytelling. Storytelling, something we haven't touched on a lot, it's such a buzzword, and it's become, unfortunately, it kind of is like the word unique, never unique, because it means nothing now.
It's like authentic.
And authentic's in the same boat. So, but storytelling can be good when you weave it into a value, like something that people need and care about. So, I mean, in my posts on my pod, I typically start out with some kind of story, and I relate it to, it could be when I was hitchhiking in Syria. It could be when I was teaching a class in Uganda and was just scared out of my mind. It could be about some really cheesy show I watched last week on Netflix. I'm just relating to people, right? That's the only thing. That's the thing you want to do with storytelling. It's not about you. I'm not the hero of the story. I'm trying to make you the hero of the story.
Yeah.
And that's a big mistake people make with storytelling. It's like you can tell a good story, but you have to make sure you're focused on who's listening. So
yeah. I just started doing that myself without video, where once every 2 weeks, I just pick a random photo from my, now they're not that random anymore. Now I actually take the photos and go like, oh, this is going to be the story. So I start with the photo and what the photo means to me. And then I take it from there into, this is the realization. This is how it applies to you. And this is, by the way, how we can fix this together, or address it together.
I've seen those, and I think that's a great way to do it, especially if you're a more visual person. Like, choose a photo and dive into the story that's in that photo, right? Because people are visual.
So we have a question from Bryn. How do you recommend multi-hyphenate business owners, portfolio careers, craft a cohesive pitch?
Sorry, say that middle part one more time.
Yeah, okay. So how do you recommend multi-hyphenate business owners / portfolio careers craft a cohesive pitch?
So are you talking about an elevator, like an elevator pitch?
I think so.
Yeah. And I think this is a lot of what I do is people, when they answer my questionnaire, they have so much material, right? It's endless. They're just like, oh, I teach this and I teach this and I used to do this and now I do this. And I get it. This is something that is really, I sometimes I've been calling myself the distiller lately, because it's really about, we have to choose, right? And we have to translate, we have to pick. I know you've done all this stuff and I see that you're very credible, but who is it that you want to attract now? What do you really want to do now? Not what you like to do. What do you love to do? What is the client you love to work with? And how can we find that? And this is what I've often been told, is that I find this common thread that is woven through everything you've done. And that ends up being your elevator pitch, right? So, and that could mean anything from someone who's a corporate consultant that says, look, you know what? We have to turn behavior into profitability because all the beer in Boulder won't save you. right? And she's very, she's got so many accolades, works with so many big companies, but this is really what she does, right? She helps people understand that culture is not about yoga classes. It's about, working with people and giving them purpose and changing their behavior.
Yeah.
But that's one line out of 25 years of experience.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered Bryn's question, but
I think so. I'm not sure what she means by the multi-hyphenate business owners, but probably business owners who have more than one area of expertise or are offering diverse services.
I do get the conundrum from people too of like, look, I've got these two businesses. How do I do this? And then it's about finding that common thread on LinkedIn and weaving that in. But it's tricky because they can be very different sometimes. And that's why we're always building a brand that is, it's Andrea Enright. It's not the Boot Factor, right? Because in 5 years, I may be, doing the Boot Factor and doing something else, right? My life may change, but I want Andrea Enright to continue.
Yep.
And that's why you can't have it attached to this little side business you have or, your past corporate. It's got to be you. And that can be scary for people, but.
Yeah. And it now makes sense actually, because Bryn is, Bryn being our digital content manager. She does that for me, but she's also a theater, Broadway theater director, and she's going back to school to Harvard. So there talk about hyphenates, right? So there's a lot to her, and how do you put that into one LinkedIn profile? So
yeah, I just did this for a woman who is a playwright who's in LA working on scripts, trying to get into TV. She's a very accomplished playwright, NYU, all this sort of accolades. And she is one of my writers, right? So she does these very different things, but the common thread for her is that she knows how to take a message and write I guess maybe take a person, take a book, take an author, take an idea and weave it into just beautiful, compelling prose. So yeah, and that's just what I specialize in is finding that nugget, distilling down people. So it's a fun process.
Very good. We'll have to send Bryn your way.
Yes, I'd love to work with her.
Yeah. Excellent. This was amazing. I mean, if we had more time, I would love to dive into much more detail on all of what you do. And I know you do, what we talked about is this one offer that you and I, talked about, and I know you have, but I know there's other stuff around too. But so if somebody's interested in talking to you, connecting with you, Andrea, where do they go? What do they do? And obviously, Bryn will put whatever relevant links there are also into the comments. So
yeah, so in the comments you can see my calendar link, and what you can do is just sign up for a free 20-minute LinkedIn, what I call LinkedIn Love Fest. We're just going to sit down with you and bring a little love to your LinkedIn profile. I'm just going to review that with you, and that's really just going to give you a lot of ideas. My boot kicking brand journey is available, especially to Nina's clients, at just a slightly discounted rate. So for the next week. So happy to chat with anyone and talk more about that. It's all about you. When you just do you, when you be brave, people will love you. So
absolutely. I signed on the dotted line, and I did the LinkedIn Love Fest, and I couldn't write fast enough. I got so much amazing feedback from Andrea. And this is, I'm in a professional LinkedIn pod. I've worked tremendous amount on my LinkedIn profile. There is always, always, always room for improvement, right? So do take her up for sure on that offer. Because it really is worth your time and your brain space. So, well, thank you so much for today's talk. And I know that you and I will be talking a lot actually, we're talking tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I just really think that the way you approach the whole, I love that you have the be brave in your, that being brave with your brand, that is, I think that is where people really, being bold, being bold with your business and being bold just being in business, but then really, if you've gone that far, take that next step and be bold with your, because you are your brand, right? It's not, your brand is not just the logo and your website. Your brand is you. So move that boldness into the next level. And Andrea is a great partner to do that with. So
thank you so much, Nina. It was a pleasure. I always love talking to you.
yes, thank you so much. And to the audience, we'll see you in 2 weeks with another great talk. And thanks for listening. Ciao, ciao.